Hello, welcome to episode 25 of Strictly Healthy. And of course, this is the show that discusses all things holistically to do with your health. So, emotional, mental, physical, financial, we'll get there eventually. I'm trying to get a couple people on to talk about that aspect. But business health, we are going to be talking a lot about business health. And today is no exception. I have a lovely lady on, Bev Hepting, and she is a public speaking expert. She's also a TEDx speaker, and so she can tell us a lot about live broadcasting and just public speaking, I bet, and how to do that with ease. So, Bev, I want to welcome you to the studio today. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. And yeah, so please do share with us some information about who you are, how you got started, where it all began for you, if you don't mind.
Okay, so Bev Hepting here. My journey into speaking, if you like, started when I was a child, and I'm a middle child. My eldest and my younger sisters danced. I couldn't dance. So, in order to find a way to still get part of what was going on, I went into drama and theatre.
Right on.
And yeah, and I learned to speak really from there. And I love to speak. I really enjoy it. And as I grew up, I went to London. I went to theatre school. Thought I was going to be a famous actress. No, that didn't work out so well. I had a baby. Had to come home. And it was interesting that I realised when I started sort of working, and I worked in the voluntary sector with charities, how many people didn't have a voice, didn't know how to speak in order to be understood, or to get what they want and things like that. So a few years
Especially
ago,
women, I think, you know.
women especially, when I started my business, and I thought, you know what, I want to help people learn how to speak. At the time, it wasn't about being a public speaker, it was being confident, because I kept talking to women who would say, "Oh, I couldn't do that, and I haven't done anything important, and really I don't." And I thought, now men, they'll stand up and talk and tell everybody what they've done, but we women were taught from an early age to be quiet, to be seen, not heard, not to boast, not to show off. So I made it my mission to help women in business, especially, to speak with confidence and clarity. So I am a speaker in my own right, but I wanted women specifically to be able to stand up and tell people their story, tell them what they do without feeling, like salesy and creepy. Like
Sure.
so that's what I
Okay.
started to do.
All right, but let's just digress a little bit. You mentioned that you were a speaker in your own right. Now,
Yeah.
I know you said you did TEDx talks, etc., and speaking engagement. Tell us about TEDx a bit, and how easy is it to get into that, or
Um,
not?
well,
Would you recommend it?
I read it every time. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And I think most speakers say, "I want to do a TED talk." Well,
Yes.
first things first, let me just say to you, no one gets to apply to do a TED talk. That they're invited by the American main TED talk group.
Oh,
And depends
okay.
on your audience. Yeah, you get invited. You do a
So,
TEDx first.
so
So,
you've done well then to be on that list.
well, to get into the TEDx and to then be on the TED Talk YouTube channel, not bad. And what happened was, and this is what you call synchronicity, I think that's the word. I had been reading around public speaking in terms of robots. I have been doing a lot of reading around how artificial reality and all of that. And Microsoft had created this hologram person that you couldn't tell and that could do a speech. And I got thinking about it, and someone sent me an invitation to apply to do a TEDx all about the future. What comes next, it was called. Because I had all this thing in my head about robots, the way my mind works. And I applied to ask the question whether, we would all end up listening to robots, or whether humans needed to be the people that impart information. And it just so happened that that particular question and discussion worked well with the other people that were in the particular lineup. And what tends to happen is you'll have a theme in a TEDx. And when you audition, and you always audition, they'll go through to see what fits the theme. So when I went up there, of course, I'm used to speaking as a business. And this isn't. This is speaking in terms of asking a question or starting a debate. So it was nerve-wracking. I think it was probably one of the most scary things I've done.
How many people were you in front of? What was the audience size like?
Well, the audience size can only be 100. There's quite a lot of rules about running TEDx's, but you tend to be in a very intimate theatre, so it looks quite large, and you have to stay on the red circle. Well, Linda, you know me. I wonder. Arms flap about, and they go, no, you have to stay on the red circle because it's videoed from different directions.
Yeah, the videos. Sure, yeah.
So it was a really, really amazing experience, and I met some awesome speakers, and people who've never spoken before, but had this story or idea to discuss. So in answer to your question, anybody really could go and do a TEDx.
Okay.
Getting the application right and understanding the process is what makes the difference. It's about understanding this is not business. This is, I have an idea. I'd like to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that in your head, yeah.
So, so how do you get then invited though?
I tend to get invited because I have my fingers out to a lot of organisers and event organisers. There's a website you can go on to that actually tells you all the TEDx's that are going to be happening. So sometimes you can actually go to them direct. 9 times out of 10, I usually get invited because, for instance, Southampton, just before lockdown, were looking for speakers. And somebody who was on that panel knew me. So sometimes it's about word of mouth. Sometimes it's about looking and hunting them down. Either way works. At the end of the day, it's just what you have to say that's important. It's the message that's really important.
Oh, okay. So do they sort of select what they would like you to talk about?
No. If it fits the theme.
Okay.
So when you do the application, you will tell them, sort of a broad outline of what you're going to talk about. Now, I hadn't even decided on the speech then. I really didn't think I would get accepted because it seemed such a... At the time, even I was going, robot. And I entitled it, I'm Not a Robot, I Think. So the application, it's like a lot of the speaking applications today. You put a rough idea forward, and I got accepted. And this particular TEDx did 3 rehearsals before the actual event, which was so useful. They really treated us well. It was such a good learning experience, as much as being up there and being able to say I've done that. It's part of my bucket list. So
well done to you anyway that you managed to get that far. That's brilliant. Now, of course, we're talking about getting over the nerves today, about live streaming and public speaking, that sort of thing. So what tips can you share with us about how we can get over our nerves, how we can go about doing it? Practice obviously sounds like one of the tips anyway.
Practice. The first thing I'm going to say is you won't ever get over the nerves. I'm putting it out there because even I get nervous. If I didn't get nervous, I would be worried then that something was going to go wrong. But it's how you use your nerves.
Yeah,
Now,
and the nervous energy is kind of good too for,
it's the same energy we use for excitement. So it's just about using that energy. The other thing about public speaking is there's so many unknowns, which is what people get scared about. They don't know what the audience is thinking. Suddenly you're the center of attention. Are you going to forget everything? What if the technology gets this? All this goes on. So these are my top tips.
Okay.
First things first, you have to know who it is you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who you're talking to, you don't know what it is you can say to them. So that's the first thing you can take control over.
Because you have to know how to speak to that particular audience.
Absolutely, and you have to know what it is they want to hear. I often say to people, if you're a vegetarian and somebody asks you to go and talk at a conference and you haven't asked who your audience are, you could end up talking to butchers about the meat industry, and then you've got nowhere to go. So you have to know who your audience are, and then you have to know what it is you want them to know.
Yes.
So at that point, you have to remember it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about what your audience needs to know.
Yes.
So if you think about the most important thing they need to know, suddenly it's not about you anymore, and it's less fearful. So, and the other thing people try to do is put everything into a speech. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So keep it simple. Know what you want to say to people. Structure your speech so you have a nice beginning, an introduction. You have a lovely call to action at the end, and 3 points that you give in the middle, because 3 is the magic number.
Okay.
We can remember 3 things.
Yes.
The minute it goes into 4 and 5, we're in a list.
Yeah. You forgot what number 1 was.
So 3, and we're DNA'd for the power of 3, because our lives are structured like that. We have morning, afternoon, nighttime. We're born, we live, we die. We everything is structured into 3s. So our brain happily accepts 3. So just 3 points towards your main message. Now you've got nothing to forget, so your brain doesn't have to worry anymore.
That's right.
I've made that nice and simple.
The more we have to get across, the more nervous we get as well. So 3 points are good. We can remember 3 points. The audience can remember 3 points.
That's it. Yeah. And the thing is, you want them to go away remembering what you said, not trying to remember what you said. So I always say, keep it to 3 points. Keep it very simple. They don't want you to be clever. They just want you to give them information. And one of the other things is, we all freeze on stage sometimes. We all do. And the trick to that is to stop and take a step, move. The minute you move, the brain clicks back into gear. So, my biggest fear is technology. So I never use it when I do a speech. I don't use technology because it's a what if it all goes wrong? So I use props. I've been known to use 6-foot giraffes as a prop to make my points.
So this didn't work though, doing your TEDx. You have a monitor, don't you?
I didn't use it. I didn't use I didn't use overheads. A lot of people do, but I didn't. I just talked to the audience, had a discussion with them, asked them those questions. Because that's the way I work best. Now other people will say, I get too nervous to do that. I need the PowerPoint. I need something to refer to. Then use PowerPoint. Use it. If, for instance, I don't learn word for word scripts in case I forget my words, so I have my structure and I know my points. Other people say to me, no, I have to learn it word for word. So do what makes you comfortable. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just do what makes you comfortable and what you feel that you can cope with. And then make that your thing. If you use props, like for me, I'll say to people, well, if you want loads of PowerPoint, I'll do it for you, but would you rather have a 6-foot giraffe? Most people prefer the giraffe. No PowerPoint. So
I like word prompts, like
yeah,
yes, I'll know my subject really well. So I'll rehearse and rehearse and know the things that I want to talk about. But then just a few words here
yeah,
and there
yeah,
to prompt me so I know, okay, yeah, that's talking about this sentence or this topic,
perfect.
this bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
kind of how
that's.
I do it.
I know some people, they'll use images. One of my clients is an
Mm,
artist and she uses the
interesting.
next piece of art. So, and what you have to remember as well when you're presenting is people cannot read and listen at the same time. Now,
Yeah,
educators have always
they're
said to us,
true.
yeah, but it's different ways people, said, yeah, but not at the same time. They're either reading and they've missed what you said, or they're listening and they don't see what's on the slide. So
Yes.
for me, it's keep the slide really simple if you're going to use it, like you say, a word or an image or a prompt. But for me, it's just me
Yeah,
doing
no,
nothing.
I think that makes sense because a lot of times you'll see them use a PowerPoint. I don't mind having it for myself to sort of read,
Yeah.
but then using a PowerPoint and say, and some people will also say, well, you can read that bit, and they give them a minute to read it, and I don't know, like
Or
people
they'll
get,
read what's on the slide. And what's the point of that?
yeah, well, why do they need you if they can
Yeah,
read it off the slide?
just give them the slides instead of home. Sometimes they
Oh
can be
dear.
great added value. They can be if they're used well. But not many people know how to use them well. And I'm not
Yes.
saying I've never used slides. I have. Online, it's a lot easier. I think with Zoom and things, it's a lot easier. But then,
Right.
if you're talking online, actually, you'll be amazed how hard it is to keep people engaged. It's harder online than it is if you're in a room with real people. Not that you're not real,
Yes.
but you know what I mean, the live audience.
Yeah.
Because
Well, so a lot of times you can't see people too online,
you
like
can't.
especially if you have a
Yeah.
slide, a thing, a PowerPoint or something up,
Well, the thing is, when
presentation.
you're in an audience and you're all there together, there's this build-up of atmosphere. It creates its own sort of viral movement, and you can say to the person next to you, "I didn't quite catch that. What was that?" And it's all going on, and you're all part of it.
Mm.
And you can look away. You don't have, you can sit back. Online, you're only you in a room. It's just
Yeah.
one person, so you're only ever talking to one person, and they don't have that stimulus around them.
Mm.
They're listening, especially with lockdown, to what the kids are doing, and who's just blown the cooker up, and oh my god, husband's tea's burning, but I thought he's smiling. This is going on, and the person who's hosting is trying to keep everything. And sometimes it's got slide after slide after. So the person thinks, oh, I'll just quickly put my camera on and go and sort the kids out. So it's so much harder online to really engage and keep people with you. And
Sure.
I think for me that's been the difference since
Hmm.
we were all out there doing it, and everything online is. And again, I keep saying to people, make it shorter, make it smarter, just make
Mm.
it simpler. Let
Yeah.
people
Sure.
digest it in bits because
Yeah.
there is too much distraction at home for people. You know,
Mm.
they I just laugh because and people don't have any etiquette online anymore. Yeah, I've been to meetings online and they're in their pajamas and they're eating their dinner, and I'm like, well, why have I bothered to pull my hair up?
Can't do anything. Yes.
so,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so
yeah, we
yeah,
got a bit too comfortable with it.
I
It took us
think
a while to get used to Zoom
yeah,
and getting
yeah, I think
comfortable.
so. And
But
actually, you have
now,
to be more on the ball. You have to be much more on the ball when you're hosting online.
yes,
And
indeed.
for you, Linda, I said to Linda earlier, her whole setup is so much more effective and engaging and professional, and you feel like you're part of a professional broadcast. Some of the broadcasts I just assumed were in the kids' attic. Somebody just popped along and put a camera on. So,
And sometimes the dog comes in or the kids
oh,
come
and they pick
in
the
or
dog
they're in the
up. And go, look at
bathroom.
my dog. I'm thinking, I haven't got time to look at your dog. The dinner's burning. So yeah, I
Yeah.
do think we need to learn a lot more about how to engage online.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, what other tips can you share with us then on how we can get over the nerves? I see you do NLP and so on. Can
Well,
you tell us a little bit about how that sort of can help?
I yeah, I've done. I'm an NLP master practitioner. No, I don't teach NLP. Don't even ask me. But
Okay.
I use some of the. I use a lot of the principles in terms of helping people change their mind shift, and a lot of the time it is a mindset. They've decided it's scary to speak in public, so they're going to be scared. um,
Mm,
and shifting that mindset to say this isn't about you. You have something very, very important to tell an audience,
mm,
and actually it doesn't have to be perfect. And people think they have to be perfect. It doesn't. You don't have
yes.
to be a beautiful speaker. No, you can speak how you like, whatever accent you like. And in some
Mm,
ways, you just need to be you, because at the end of the day,
yes.
the audience want the information you can give them. That's your present to them, that information.
And
And
yeah.
bearing that in mind and going, I'm giving you this rather than, oh my God, everybody's looking at me. If you just shift that around, look at it differently,
Yes.
you get rid of a lot
I
of the
think you're
nerves.
right that people tend to be a little bit too self-conscious and they
Yeah,
think, oh, people are looking at how I say it or how I look and what I
yeah,
have on.
yeah,
But really, the less nervous you are, the more you can share what you're talking about. Then they
absolutely.
start to listen to what you're
Yeah,
saying as opposed to looking at what you
yeah,
look like.
yeah,
If
absolutely.
if you're nervous, then they look at what you're looking like, I
It's
think.
difficult because we want most of the audience want you to do well. It's not about the audience saying, "Oh my, we're going to make her life really difficult. That's it. We're going to make her life." That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
They want you to do well. And when the more nervous you get, then the more worried we get for the audience. So
Yes.
they're there to support you. They're there to hear what you've got to say. They're not going to waste their time if they don't want to know what you've got to say.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And
just being able to
they're
relax into that and go, you know what, it doesn't matter if I go wrong, I'll just start again.
yes.
The
Yeah.
audience doesn't mind.
And they
I've done that many times. I've gone, oh, I've really fallen over all those words, don't know where I am. Hang on. So they're very forgiving, an audience.
And if you make it entertaining like you are as well too, and
Yeah,
people don't know what you've got written down. This is the thing. Sometimes we get nervous because we think people know what I am going to
yeah,
say, but
yeah, yeah.
not necessarily.
No,
They
you never
no.
know what. No, you don't. And the other thing is, we all have different styles. No, people aren't all going to be able to speak the way I do. I'm very brash. I'm in your face. I'm like, "Argh." Other people are much quieter than that, and we all have our own way of doing things, and
Sure.
none of them are wrong. I mean,
Mm.
I have a lot of envy, and I so want to learn how to speak quietly and be a little less, if you would
Why?
say it. But it doesn't work.
Why? Everybody says you're going to be energetic and show some excitement,
There's,
and
there's quiet certainly if you're in therapy work or you're talking to people about breathing, or they don't want me. They want the nice quiet person who's going to make them feel safe.
but I hear what you're saying because different styles you can be drawn into somebody who's quiet and telling you a very intense story,
Yes.
and they lower their voice and they get
Yeah.
very intense, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can really be drawn into that, and the emotion is there.
Oh,
And then
and that's where the
there's other people.
storytelling. Yeah. Now, my
Yeah.
speciality is storytelling, and what I try to say to people is actually you need a bit of all those different techniques if you're telling somebody a story, because you want to be, oh, the hero's coming down the road and all of this, and then into but the princess wants to stay. So you have to use that the diversity of your voice, and I think that's when you get to a point where you want to be able to do those techniques, that you go to someone who can teach you how to do that, because they are techniques. But
Mm,
to be a speaker, to speak about your business, to even speak to people, I don't know, parents who have to go to a parents' evening to talk to the head teacher, or some, wherever you need to go and speak, and we all get nervous, is to know exactly what it is you want to say and
mm-hmm,
what outcome you want.
mm-hmm,
So knowing what you want your audience to do, helps. So whoever you're speaking to, if you know what outcome you want from them,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it a little easier, and you're not trying to think of all these different things you have to say. You
Mm-hmm.
just keep it nice and simple, and you stay, within that message.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I've heard, yeah, everybody now is saying about your message, your personal message. We
Yeah.
have all, and your story, and
Stories are big in business at the moment, but not many people
yes,
understand the power of a good story. They
yes.
don't. For instance, I had a client, and very technical, something to do with computers. It was all technology, and even I was going, no, I'm not a clue what you're talking about. It's going right over my head. So he said to me, well, it's like this. He said, you want to, I think it was something to do with online graphics. He said, you want to do a logo online, and you have to go to all these different places to find this information. He said, and you get really quiet, and you end up paying lots of money. So what I did was, we told me the story. I said, now I know what you mean, and now I know
Yeah.
why I would get involved, because now it makes sense. Don't
So
hurl things at me.
sometimes you have to give an illustration as well, just so that people get it.
Absolutely. And again, DNA for stories, that's how we've always passed on information. It's how we passed on learning and wisdom, and I laugh because I think back to the days of Stone Age, and they have just the pictures, these are the buffaloes and the bisons and the spears, that's all you had. Right up to today, we're on Instagram, you've got 2 seconds of video, you've got an image. We've all gone full circle now, and people don't read books anymore. They're just
And our attention span is just right out the window, isn't it?
oh, and that's scary. Yeah.
Because we
So
can only seem to
stories have
watch
to be
1 minute of video now.
quick and impactful stories now. It's like
But
that saying: "He came, he saw, he conquered." That's it. Story done.
speaking of full circle, have you heard of Clubhouse by chance? Have you?
I have, I
Yes.
have, and
And
very upset about it
why?
because I don't have an iPhone. I'm on Android,
Oh, so you can't get it on
and it's the
Android.
same with. Have you heard of Amazon Live? You can now do live streaming to Amazon
Oh, yes,
if
I've
you've
heard.
got an iPhone.
Oh, well, there you are. Maybe they're in cahoots with
I
with
know.
Apple.
I love Mac. I always have them, but it got very expensive because they kept changing the hardware all the time. And things. So, but no, I'll go to Android. I'll just and now I'm looking at it going, I'm going to have to buy an iPhone just so I can stream.
But what? Why I mentioned Clubhouse is because you said about full circle. Clubhouse is now more like radio, isn't it? You've gone back. Everything was video, 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 but
No, it's
Clubhouse
audio
is
now.
going back to
Yeah,
radio.
yeah.
Listening online, audio.
It's not such hard work to listen as it is to watch
Sure. And
because
people don't
and
always
I
have
know.
the time to
Yeah,
watch.
and because this Zoom fatigue, as they're calling it now, I think the perfect time was to move back into that audio arena, and I think Clubhouse were very clever at the timing and the right way to do that.
Mm.
And the idea that I can be working while listening to something on the phone and join in whenever I need to,
Mm-hmm.
that would be brilliant. But again, even on Clubhouse, you have to remember that within the voice, if it's voice only, then your voice really does have to show emotion, it has to show energy, it has to be engaging, and you have to pull people in. You can't just drably talk on Clubhouse about something that's going on and never draw a breath, because people will turn off.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great. Well, any other tips that you want to share with us? Because the time's just about up for our
Okay,
little
I would
segment.
just say to anyone, if you're in business, you have to speak, end of. So just clarify your message, keep it simple, and just do it and keep doing it. And actually, you'll find you quite enjoy it. You really will enjoy it.
Practice. Mm. And that's what I find. Practice, practice, practice. Prepare, practice, and just
Always
do it.
prepare, never wing it. Never try and make it up as you go along. You have to prepare. You
Mm.
have to know certain things so that your brain is comfortable and doesn't try to stab you in the back and tell you it's forgotten everything.
I then you might get stage fright or something, you know. So
Yeah,
then
and
your
you
brain
will get
freezes.
nervous. Just use the nerves, you know, think of it as excitement, and as I say, I still get quite nervous when I go on and do anything. So,
Mm, okay, great.
right,
Well, thank you, Bev, for your bit of insights. That was very,
my
very
pleasure.
helpful. And well, all the best to you. And I'm sure I'll come across you again and maybe have you back.
That'd
Are
be
you writing a
lovely.
book by any chance or anything? Have you got a book going on or
Book writing is not my thing. I'm thinking of
not
doing
your
an
thing?
audio book instead.
Oh, well, there you are.
Just
There's
talk
an
it.
opportunity. Great. So I want to thank you, Bev, for joining me
Okay.
today. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Bev Hepting, and she's a public speaking expert, very engaging and sharing some lovely thoughts with us about how we can go about doing public speaking and live broadcasting with ease. So I do hope that you found this information helpful. And you can join us again next time. Now, what have we got next time? We've got a fitness PA instructor from the GB team, the team in the UK. So she'll have some tips to share with us about how we can get physically healthier. So thanks again for joining me, and that's it for now. Bye for now.